Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tips and Tools for Recovery That Works. On today's episode, we're going to go through the 12 tips that Smart Recovery recommends for happy and healthy living. Because let's face it, happy and healthy living is a big part and indeed an intended outcome of your successful recovery. The subject of what constitutes happiness has been contemplated for millennia. Most people agree that happiness is a desired state of being, but no two people can agree on how to get there. For some, happiness comes through hard work. For others, it's family and a rich social life. For others, it's through their faith or service to others. And for some, it's none or all of these things. Smart Recovery is not designed to help you find happiness per se, nor does it claim to be able to. But health and happiness is often a key goal and intended outcome of successful recovery, and successful recovery is what we're all about. So we compiled a list of 12 tips that may be able to get you moving in the direction of happiness, recover from setbacks more quickly, and succeed at long-term recovery. Number 1, self-acceptance. If you haven't seen our previous Tips and Tools episode about unconditional self-acceptance, I recommend that you check it out. The main takeaway here is that happy and healthy people try to accept themselves unconditionally, despite their perceived flaws, their past addictive behaviors. They don't spend a lot of mental energy trying to rate themselves or constantly struggling to prove their self-worth to themselves or to other people. Once we accept ourselves as we are, it's easier to start working to become the person we wish to be. Number 2, risk-taking. Some people are born risk takers, others are more conservative, and that's fine, to each their own. That said, taking some calculated risks is often a necessary part of professional or personal and most certainly financial growth. And personal growth and accomplishments often bring greater happiness. Number 3, there is no utopia. One of the greatest threats to successful recovery is a mindset that everything always has to be perfect, that people themselves must be perfect. We discussed this in our previous Tips and Tools episode about unconditional life acceptance, where we stressed that life is chaotic, messy, and oftentimes completely unfair. The only unchanging thing about life is that things always change. So to chase a vision of ultimate perfection is like trying to tap dance on quicksand. It will inevitably lead to some big disappointments, and disappointments often lead to triggers which can be a threat to your long-term recovery. Number 4, realizing what's solvable. There are really only two types of problems in life, the ones you can solve and the ones you can't. Yet it's not always easy to make the distinction. Humans are problem solvers by nature, so it's our first instinct to try to deal with everything that's thrown at us. But it's often unrealistic, which can lead to frustration, and frustration is fertile hunting ground for triggers. A happy, healthy life requires that we establish what problems we can control. Once we do, the more time and mental energy we can spend actually solving those problems and not becoming frustrated by the ones we can't. Number 5, taking responsibility. We've all heard the so-called victim mentality, where people believe that all of their problems are always out of their control. It's fate's fault, or so-called bad luck, or that their problems are always caused by other people. Well, other people can be a drag, that's for sure. For more on that, check out our previous Tips and Tools episode about unconditional other acceptance. The point here is that most happy and healthy people don't outsource the blame for their troubles to external forces, most of which they can't control. They accept much of the personal responsibility for their circumstances, how they think, how they feel, and how they ultimately behave as a result. And coming in at number 6, self-interest. Most of us like helping other people because it makes us feel needed, important, and loved. But there are healthy boundaries that many of us cross. There is such a thing as giving too much. Happy, emotionally balanced individuals know this boundary well. Yes, to some degree they sacrifice themselves for those they care about, but they don't forget that their personal interests are extremely important too and can't be completely overlooked for the sake of others all the time. At number 7, social interest. A deep sense of social connection to others is how we thrive as a species. Now, problematic using behaviors may have started out as really social activities, but when addiction takes over, that can change to isolation. A key part of successful recovery and overall happiness is to rebuild those existing social connections that may have been lost or damaged during addiction, and then actively form new ones. Number 8, self-direction. We all need and benefit from the support of others in our recovery, but sometimes that can turn into an over-reliance. Self-direction reminds us that we need to assume primary responsibility for our own lives in recovery, instead of demanding or insisting that others always guide us and nurture us. Getting help is vitally important, but remember, at the end of the day, our successful recovery and happiness comes down to us, the way we think, and the decisions that we make. Others can't decide for us. Only we can do that. Number 9, tolerance. As we mentioned in our previous episode about unconditional other acceptance, the world is filled with other people, some of whom we may disagree with or even resent. We can't control other people. We can only control ourselves. So to find happiness in recovery, we need to develop the ability to tolerate other people. Try not to judge their motives, avoid labeling them as bad or evil, and sometimes even forgive them altogether. Number 10, flexibility. In a world that is constantly changing more quickly than ever before, rigid belief patterns inevitably create stress, which may lead to triggers. Of course, we must develop and act upon our core values and beliefs, but also be open to modifications to those beliefs from time to time. As the world and our place in it constantly changes, health and happiness can come as a result of us becoming more open, more flexible about how we judge the world and the people around us. Number 11, acceptance of uncertainty. As much as we would prefer otherwise, life is essentially uncertain. If it was totally certain, we would probably get bored. Uncertainty is what makes life interesting. Trying to be hyper-organized and control all aspects of our lives is a great goal in theory, but demanding that it should always be the case opens us up to disappointments, and disappointments can create recovery challenges. Along the lines of our previous Tips and Tools episode about unconditional life acceptance, the acceptance of uncertainty is a sometimes difficult but ultimately very rewarding way to find long-term happiness. And coming in at number 12, commitment. Commitment to other aspects of our lives and our goals and desires that were perhaps marginalized or lost to addiction. For context, please check out our previous Tips and Tools episode about the VACI, or Vital Absorbing Creative Interest. Most people tend to be happier and succeed at recovery when they are engaged with new creative endeavors, new goals, new relationships, a new way of looking at the vast potentialities of life. A renewed commitment to explore what is new and possible in life has been shown to lead to greater happiness. Hey, I hope these last 6 tips for greater happiness were helpful to you. If you're happy, all of us here at Smart Recovery are happy too. As always, thanks for joining us, and see you next time on Smart Recovery's YouTube series, Tips and Tools for Recovery That Works.
Whoever you are, whatever you've been through, however you're recovering, wherever you're headed in life, Smart Recovery will always have your back. Smart Recovery, life beyond addiction. At Smart Recovery, we love producing recovery-related video content that entertains, motivates, and inspires anyone. So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you click on the bell icon to be the first to know when we post new videos. And please, help us help anyone who needs us to build their own life beyond addiction with a tax-deductible donation to Smart Recovery today.